Welcome back to Bible and Blues, and today we are working with Rooms, chapter 16. And we're when we left Micah, he was in a situation. His stock prices had dropped, and he had lost like $15 million, but he was the only one that knew about it. I mean, nobody else was aware that it would ever hit that level to where he could have lost that. And all the stocks were saying that everything was fine. So this is a very unusual thing for him, and he is out of control on this. He is freaking out, as you can imagine. Imagine losing $15 million. So we're going to read chapter 16 of Runes by James Rubart. Chapter 16, 45 million reasons woke Micah early Monday morning. When the market opened at 6:30, Micah walked in from his deck, the smell of his self-made espresso in his hand still filling his senses. He grabbed the laptop, pulled up the internet, and locked his gaze on a chart showing Rimsoft's stock price. He'd set his laptop to refresh once every 15 seconds, so he'd know almost instantly if there was an abnormal drop in the price. An hour passed before he moved, and then only to grab a bowl of his banana nut crunch. He brought it over to his desk and slurped it down while he watched his monitor. Another hour, no change. When the market closed at 1:30, he slumped backward and closed his bloodshot eyes. Exhausting. Tuesday, the stock was down 2, Wednesday up 3, Thursday down a half, Friday up a quarter. When the market closed on Friday afternoon, Micah snapped his laptop shut and sighed. A headache throbbed at his temples and radiated down his neck. Finally over. It was more than the money, it was his company's clout in the computer world. With stock in the low 60s, Rimsoft wouldn't be as influential, making key alliances harder to secure. But it was more than even that. He invested his life into that company. Blood, tears, and a gallon of sweat had been poured into it. Even a sliver of it slipping away ripped at his heart. Rimsoft gave him identity, a reference point for his entire life. He was Rimsoft. Rimsoft was him. Sure, maybe Cannon Beach was changing him, drawing him into a deeper identity and things eternal, but it didn't squelch the sinking feeling inside of losing his world in Seattle. Saturday morning, he guzzled a cup of Seattle's best coffee, wandered out onto the deck, and watched the seagulls canter back and forth on the wind. He worried, not about his sanity, not really. He knew he wasn't losing his mind. It was the daunting images that darted through his mind of other things that might change in an instant. Time for a run. On his way to change clothes, the painting room popped into his mind. Yes, just the thing to take his mind off the madness. After he opened the door, he didn't know whether to feel fear or joy. Significant changes again. He felt lightheaded and teetered on his Nikes. Lush Douglas fir trees now covered the hills, emerald carpet on their feet. The sky was a brilliant sapphire blue, with cotton candy clouds peppered sparsely through the heavens. The artist had started the ocean, but it was too early to tell if the waves would play or rage. He studied the painting for half an hour. Where the artist would take it next fluttered at the edges of his heart, like a riveting dream that fades upon waking. The artist could put people into the painting, a sandcastle, kites. When he finally left, he walked toward his bedroom to get ready for his run. The plan was abandoned a moment later when he spotted another door down the hall he'd never seen. It was framed by ornate carvings of trees interwoven with otters, wolves, and eagles. This he would have remembered. The door was cracked open, the inside tar black. He peeked through the narrow opening. Light from the hall spilled onto the first few feet of carpet in the room and stopped abruptly. Odd. Micah eased the door open halfway. There was no furniture in the few feet of the room he could see. Nothing but carpet washed into the darkness. There was no sound, although it felt like there should be. The room was too still, too silent. Images of the memory room filled his mind. The faint rustle came from the back of the room. "Hello?" Michael called out. "Hi, Micah," came a voice out of the stillness. Micah's heartbeat jumped from 65 to 180 in an instant. He staggered back across the hall and smacked into the wall behind him. But he stayed there and didn't run. Something about the voice riveted him into the floor. Who are you? Come in, the soft voice soothed. Who are you? Hey, get in here, the voice laughed easily. Come in. The tone was light and welcoming. Don't freak out on me. The voice was familiar, as if he'd heard it many times before. He hesitated. There was no reason to go in. That wasn't true. There was every reason to step inside. Everything in this house was somehow related to a spiritual condition. Archie had virtually told him that in the first letter. This was different. It was the first time an audible voice had spoken to him without being part of a contained scene or a dream. And instead of being a scene from his past, this was in the present and in the house. This wasn't a changed painting or a room of memorabilia. It was alive. It was a real live voice. He shuddered, once, twice, then moved forward. He inched his foot over the threshold and set his foot down like a dandelion spore settling on the grass in spring. His other foot remained in the hallway. Laughter again, warm, comforting. Come in, Micah, all the way. I promise I am a friend. More of a friend than you can imagine. He eased into the room another step and then stopped. The room felt familiar, even more than the rest of the house. It was like hearing a phone number and realizing it was attached to someone he knew, but not remembering if the person was from the present or a past long forgotten. Now that your heart rate has returned to normal, why not come a little further in so we can talk? There's a chair to your right, and it's comfortable as a big cotton ball. Micah took slow steps to his right. His thigh bumped against the chair. The darkness kept him from seeing even its outline before he felt the supple leather. That's okay. I'll stand. I understand. I knew it'd be quite a shock for you the first time we actually talked to each other. Who are you? Micah squinted into the inky darkness. A friend who has been with you since the day you were born. Why haven't I ever heard you before? You're kidding, right? A smile sounded in the voice. All your life I've been speaking to you. You know my voice. It was true. He did. More than familiar. It felt like part of him. But just when you thought he had placed it, the memory raced into a corner of his mind where he couldn't follow. Micah spoke just above a whisper. Yes, I'll say there's something about your voice I recognize, but I don't know you. Yes, you do. You know me intimately, just as I know you. Then who are you? Let your imagination go for a moment. Archie built a truly astonishing house. A home where things that only happen in dreams happen every day. A house so deeply spiritual, miracles happen in every moment. The voice paused. You know who I am. Micah knew, but part of him couldn't believe it. Another part didn't want it to be true. It was too strange, too unnerving. And yet a third part desperately wanted this impossibility to be possible for him. Finally he answered, You're me. Yes. Micah held his breath. Then he sipped in a swallow of air and spoke. You're my own thoughts, my own voice, my own impressions. Micah paused, realizing the significance and utter strangeness of what he was about to say. I'm talking to myself. The voice chuckled. Strange yet wonderful, isn't it? Of course, it made so much sense. This was why the voice was so familiar. He had been hearing it all his life. Why the dark? You got me. Guess it makes it easier to talk to each other. Blocks out the distractions, like when you're praying. It's the same way here. Rather than focus on anything visual, I should say, we can focus on the words we speak to each other instead of the weirdness of staring into each other's faces. How can I hear you audibly here, but not outside this house? All my life, I've heard you through thoughts and impressions and ideas, but never like this. It doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense. In this house, you're becoming more attuned to the spiritual realm around you. That alone would make me easier to hear. And you're hearing the voice of God again, so why shouldn't you hear more clearly the voice of yourself? Last time I heard God's voice, he said, get ready, and I lost $15 million. The voice didn't respond. I got to think this through. Micah turned to leave. Great family talking to you like this, the voice said. Micah made sure the door was shut tight. That night he stood on the deck outside his room at the ocean lodge. Campfire smoke drifting up from the beach. He couldn't believe he was so scared of his own voice he wouldn't go to sleep in his house. But come on, how often did a voice come out of a dark room claiming to be his own? Then again, maybe it was a gift beyond imagination he needed to accept. Yes, an incredible gift. He would simply accept it, and the next night sleep back in the house. Someone down on the beach waved a tiny fireball through the air. Probably a marshmallow that got too close to the campfire. He wished his biggest mystery in life was how to evenly brown a marshmallow. Rick. He talked to Rick about the voice tomorrow night. Here ends chapter 16 of Runes. So, there you go. He's dealing with the concept of losing all that money and all that weird stuff happening, and he finds a new room. This new room has him in it, is what's happening. He's talking to himself. So what's going on with that? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I mean, if you're talking to yourself, a lot of times you're probably not doing a good thing. You're not supposed to be able to talk. Talking to yourself, you're supposed to be kind of crazy if you're talking to yourself, right? So, you tell me, what do you think's going on? So, God bless. I'm gonna get going. Somebody's calling for some help outside. Here in the real world. So I got to get going. But God bless. I will talk to you later.